The problem most people have is they come online and they watch one video by one man that has no children, no wife, no
Yeah.
nothing, nothing. And it's like, I'm going monk mode. If you don't wake up by 4 a.m. and I sleep only 3 hours a day, if you don't do that, you don't deserve this. That's not true. This person doesn't have a life outside their business. You have a life. So the question is, what will you be a disciple to? What are the things that you've decided? These are my tenets. And can I be disciplined to these tenets?
Welcome to the Iron Mindset podcast, a podcast focused on discipline and strategy for women scaling lifestyle-led businesses. I'm Valentina, your host, a serial entrepreneur with almost 2 decades of business and marketing experience. And we're all here because we're in the business of number one. Today's guest is Lola Oyafemi, a messaging and business strategist who helps businesses increase revenue with content, stories, and science. She works with founders and leadership teams to turn ideas into demand and visibility into sales, blending behavioral economics, narrative design, and real-world execution. In today's episode, we talk about discipline as following your own tenets, not some guru's 5 a.m. monk mode routine when you've got a toddler who doesn't care about your productivity schedule, the CNA framework, constraints, nature, and agency, a practical way to build a business strategy around your actual life instead of pretending you're someone you're not, and the business of your business, why learning how to get clients and structure your offers matters way more than collecting another certification. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Hi, Lola. Thank you for being a guest on this podcast. Please tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm so blessed to be here. I'm so happy to be on your hot seat. I feel like I'm so many things to so many people. So to my husband, I'm a wife, but to my children, I'm their mom. But to me, I feel like deep down, I'm a strategist. And I feel like that's everything I've ever really done has been tied to strategy, not necessarily only business, but even like in cooking, I have like strategies for how I cook my meals and stuff. I work now as a messaging strategist, and the work I do is literally helping people communicate their brilliance. I find that there's so many people who do really fantastic, beautiful things, but they don't know how to talk about those things in a way that does not reduce how wonderful the things they're doing is, and also in a way that makes people want to buy the thing that they have. And I feel like that simplification and that resonance is really where I thrive. And that's the work I've been doing for almost a decade now.
Oh, wow. And did you start directly with this, or did you have any businesses before that? How did you get into this business world?
Okay, so for me, I've always had a thing for business. And it's because my dad has been a civil servant all his life, but my dad has always had a side business. And so my dad would come back from work for 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. my dad is off to his business. And every time you ask him, my dad would be like, so I've minded the government's business. Now it's time to mind my own business. And so I grew up hearing that at home. I think I was like 12 when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad for the first time. And my dad just like really emphasized it doesn't matter what you're doing, you should always have your own business. And so when I started to work, I got my first real job at the age of 18. And I was working in radio and I continued working there for some years, finished university, went on, and I was still working in radio. And then one time I had an issue come up at work. A guy was hired and I have a degree in mass communication. And this guy didn't have a college degree. And he had a college degree, but it wasn't like at the same level with mine. And then it wasn't in something communication related. And then frankly, he didn't know the job. And so the guy is hired, and I meant to teach him the job. And I realized that his salary is higher than mine.
Yeah.
And it was painful because like I know this job like the back of my hands. And not only was I doing my job, I was doing like 5 other jobs at the same time. So I was in radio and I was hosting a show, a morning show. And I was also in the admin department because they said they didn't have enough administrative staff. And I was also in the logistics department because they didn't have someone for logistics and someone was stealing like some things. I was also in marketing because I used to go for marketing drives. Yeah. And I was also the person who was kind of like relating with the team relations and everything, making sure everyone's salaries are paid and stuff like that. So I had like 5 jobs. And I was always falling sick because I was so stressed out. So sometimes I would, get to work at 6:30 in the morning. I'm not leaving the office until like 8 p.m. And I wasn't getting paid well. And then this guy comes on, and the guy takes only one of my roles. So he works as an administrative staff, and he's getting paid more than me.
Yeah.
And so I was disappointed. I was pained, and I started to plan on how I was going to leave. And so that was the first time I was in a long time that I'd said, you know what, I'm going to start a business. And so I got someone, I paid for a website, and I was just playing around it. And so one day, something happens at work. My chairman at that time, he's late now, so God rest his soul. And I have no hard feelings about him. I feel like that was a necessary step in my journey. So my chairman at that time had sent in some money to be used to pay for something. But at the same time, we had to make a repair in the office, and the money he sent was not enough to pay for that, for the streaming service, and for the repair in the office. And because the streaming service was going to expire in a week, I felt like, okay, let's pay for the office repair, and I'll make a requisition for the rest of the money. And that's what we did. And he said, why did I misappropriate the funds? And I explained to him, like, you didn't send enough money, firstly.
Yeah.
And we didn't have enough to cover for these 2 things. And because this one was more pressing and we needed it like right now, I think it was like the toilets were falling down or something. And for radio, you have guests coming in, people are going to use the toilets, and we needed to fix this. And he was like, no, whatever. And he said he let me go. And as he let me go, I was still coming to do my program. I did my program for a month after, and I wasn't paid. And then my media boss was like, maybe you should send him a letter. Maybe you should apologize. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. And that's how I worked out. But that was my last real job. That was 9 years ago. And so I just had a website. I didn't have anything. I was like, well, where do I start? Where do I start with this business thing? And so I started to do stuff. I reached out to all my contacts from radio, and I told them, well, I can handle your marketing because I've been doing that
Yeah.
for the radio station for a while. And I wasn't like a fantastic marketer. I was just like winging it. And then I got like one client from all my contacts. Then one person reached out to me on LinkedIn. I was like, do you know how to run Facebook ads? And I was like, yes, I can run Facebook ads. And so that was literally how I first started my business. It was accidental, but it just continued that way.
Hey, sorry for interrupting this podcast episode. I know it's really interesting, but there's something I really need to tell you. Have you joined our YouTube community? That's where we share teachings behind the scenes of our businesses and where all the podcast guests are. So underneath this video, if you're watching us on YouTube, there is a button to join our YouTube community. Come and say hi, tell us about your business, ask your questions. All the teachings that I provide are free for all my YouTube followers and in this YouTube community. Hope to see you inside. And now let's go back to the episode. Earlier, I wrote down some things. I wrote priority, like how you are able to prioritize things as you did with the radio. I wrote plan, the fact that you started to make like an exit plan before the thing happened. And also I wrote down that everything happens for a reason. And this is something I also believe that, and I think this is also for people's mindset and how to go about things. In my businesses also, I've never thought like, yes, there were times when I was really sad that things weren't going well, but I always took them as lessons and things that we need to learn in order to improve, get better and do the thing. I never took them as failures. And I really liked the fact that you said, I thought about the plan and then I just winged it, but I did it. And I understood that that happened because it was like a preparation step for me to move forward with what I had to do next. So I think this vision on life and business is really important. It happens because that helped me grow. Okay.
Yeah, I want to note something just before we move on, that it was almost at no point did I have only one thing. Because I grew up with my dad always reminding me, like, you always have to mind your business. So even though I was working in radio, I was also working with a government stuff. It was like really like on the ground, it was like a social media management stuff for a governor. And so I was part of their team. The work was really minimal, to be honest, because we're like, you know how political teams are. You could be like 100 people on one team. So it wasn't like I was having to do so much, but I always had that. But the thing that happened that really scarred me in 2016 was that as I lost this job, this radio job, I also lost that job. It was like I was sad I lost the job, the first job, and I was crying. And I remember I was talking to then I was still dating my husband. We're not married yet. And I was talking to him, and then I get a call from my boss in the other job, and they're like, "Oh, we want to let go of all the remote workers because of the economy." And I just break down, like, I'm like, "Oh my God, why is it today?" It's like the same day. But God is so faithful. I'm so happy that that happened, because if I still had that other job, I would never have been able to double down on my business.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the questions that I usually ask in this podcast, and these are related to discipline, strategy, and having a lifestyle-led business. That's because you're also a mom and a wife and also a business owner, so you need to juggle many things at the same time. So my first question is, what do you understand by discipline in business, and how do you apply it to your everyday business life?
So for me, discipline, now to be honest, I'm going to say where I think it comes from, but I may be wrong in this sense. I feel like discipline comes from the word disciple, right? Or disciple comes from the word discipline. And what a disciple is you follow a certain tenet. So if they say, I'm a disciple of this school of thought, it means I follow this tenet of the school of thought, right? Which means that's discipline. And so I feel like for business, we have to have some tenets that we follow. For example, one tenet I follow is I believe that selling is serving. If right on this call, I feel like I have something that will help you, I will sell you. I'm not doing it like, oh my God, everybody must buy from. That's not the thing. Is that this is a tenet that I follow. Another tenet I believe is I believe that compassion is the strategy. I believe that the easiest way to be able to have a great business is to have compassion on people in the market. And so if I feel like people in the market are missing on this thing, because I have compassion, I will either create a solution and give them for free, or I will teach about it to help them, or I will sell them something that can help them. So because I have these tenets, it implies my discipline in business. So it means that if I sit down with my team members and we come up with a plan, part of that plan will involve something about selling. Part of that plan will be involved something like customer service, customer relationship, giving a long rope. And most of my clients tell me I give a really long rope. Like there's very little a client can do to really offend me. Like we could reschedule call 5 times. I'm not bothered about it. I give a really long rope because my strategy is always compassion. I feel like this person has something going on in their life. I don't know what's going on in their life. And because of that, that's my strategy. So I feel like the moment you know what you're a disciple to, it's easy to be disciplined with those things. The problem most people have is they come online and they watch one video by one man that has no children, no wife, no
Yeah.
nothing, nothing. And it's like, I'm going monk mode. If you don't wake up by 4 a.m. and sleep by 12 p.m., and by 12 a.m., I sleep only 3 hours a day. If you don't do that, you don't deserve this. That's not true. This person doesn't have a life outside their business. You have a life. So the question is, what will you be a disciple to? What are the things that you've decided? These are my tenets. And can I be disciplined to this tenet? So a simple tenet, if you're just starting out in business, will be every day I sell my offer. That's a simple tenet. And so it means that if by 10 p.m. I remember I've not sold my offer, I would send a message or I would send an email. I would send a post. I would do something like, hey, I have this for sale. Come and buy it. Simple, just a simple tenet. If I'm disciplined with this simple tenet, other things are going to follow.
Yeah. Doing one thing at a time, especially in the beginning, helps because we tend to feel overwhelmed about all the things that everyone says, just as you said, everyone says you had to do. And you actually reminded me of a few years ago, I had a coach, a man. I talked about this in the first episode also. I have no problem with that. But he was like with the 5 a.m. club, like you wake up at 5 a.m., you journal, you go to the gym, you do it. And my daughter was one, I think. And I was like, I can't, like sometimes I'm awake all night. She wakes me up every 3 hours. I was still breastfeeding. I can't do that. And I understand how people can feel disappointed and they are never going to make it because they don't follow this. And that's why when I had to choose the topic for this podcast, I chose it for women building lifestyle-led businesses because it's sometimes, yes, there are, like single fathers, let's say, out there who might benefit from this. But I think about the mums, the ones who need to, as you said, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I have my businesses, I have my team, I have my clients. We need to juggle so many things. And I just want encouragement for them to see that you can actually do it in your own way. Okay, now I'm going to move on to strategy because you are a strategist, first of all. And what do you understand by strategy in business or in marketing, and how do you apply that?
I would say that strategy first stems from being strategic. When we say someone is strategic, once I tell you someone is strategic, there's a particular image that comes to your mind. We feel like this person has a plan, this person knows where they're going to, this person has it all figured out, and that is the strategy. But the truth of the matter is, every single person is strategic, even if you don't feel strategic. And the reason why is this: you can be strategic about being unstrategic. Like, I think it was praying I was reading, and it was like, you're very consistent of being inconsistent. So you could be saying, oh my God, I just do things as it happens, but you're being strategic about doing things as it happens because this is now your strategy. Your new strategy is I do things as it happens. And so because you know that everybody is strategic, you start to know that you're strategic. And when it comes to business, strategy in business actually stems from who you are. The reason why is because it doesn't matter the strategy someone else gives you. If the strategy does not align with who you are, it's not going to work for you. So strategy starts from you understanding something I like to call the CNA. And this will be the freebie I
Yes,
give.
yeah.
Yes. So the CNA is kind of like your DNA, but for business. So CNA is made up of three things. Number one is your constraints. There's no strategy you can have without knowing what your constraints are. Your constraints are so important. Constraints are the things that you can't do. I have a 2-year-old. I can't be waking up by 5 a.m. to go jogging. It's a constraint. I live in the suburbs, and before I see anybody, it takes me a 20 minutes drive. It means that my strategy cannot be handing out flyers to 100 people per day because before I see those 100 people, I spend 30 minutes on the road. So what are your constraints, both your natural constraints, both your environmental constraints, both your time constraints? When I still had babies, I couldn't do calls as much as I'm doing now. So what are your constraints about stuff? If you write out all your constraints, that informs your strategy. And I'll tell you that every single business that you know that is doing well, they're doing well because they have constraints.
Yeah.
For example, Hermes will not do a bag for $1. Hermes will not do a $20 handbag. It's not that they can't do a $20 handbag. They can, but it's a constraint. We've already designed ourselves to not do this, so we're not going to do this. So you want to write down all your constraints. The second thing is your nature. So constraints are things that hold you back. Nature is things that you're like naturally good at. So what's your nature? Nature is, oh, I'm very outspoken. Nature is I talk really well, so I should do video. Nature is I write really well, so I should write more. Nature is I'm great at convincing people. What are the things you are naturally good at? Maybe it doesn't matter whether you feel like you're an introvert, you're an extrovert, you're ambivert, whatever vert you decide. There's something that's fantastic about you, and that is in your nature. The third part is agency. Agency is what are the things you have control over? What are the things you have right now? So I have a website, that's agency. I have an email list, that's agency. I have 5 friends who are billionaires and I know they can connect me, that's agency. I'm a member of a country club, that's agency. Every single thing you have to get. Those 3 things put together now form your strategy. And that allows you to be able to know what you can and cannot do. So for example, when I first started coaching, I started coaching in 2020. When I mean coaching, honest, I'm not a life coach or anything. I'm more like a strategist. But I moved from done for you work to done with you work in 2020. And in 2020, the way people used to get clients then was live launches. So we'll do like a 5-day event on Zoom. And I did it the first time. I got 3 clients from it. And just trying to do it the second time, I was exhausted. The next time I did, I think I got like 6 clients, but I was exhausted. And I had a baby. I had a 3 month old, my baby was growing. I just had a baby in 2019. And then we entered 2020 and COVID, I couldn't get any help. It was just me, my husband, and this baby. We've never had a baby before. We don't know what to do with this baby.
Yeah.
This baby is just here, right? And I realized that I can't do a 5 day event. Like it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I have a baby who's crying, and the baby doesn't care whether it's 5 p.m. every day I have to be there. No, the baby is going to cry. So I realized that the 2 live launches I did, I was breastfeeding in one of them. So it doesn't make any sense for me to now be like, everybody must do a live launch because they need to, a 5 day challenge. It doesn't work for me. And as my children started growing older, I started to realize that, oh, my best events are workshops that people pay for. It could be a 2 day workshop, it could be a 3 day workshop, but I'm paid before I come to present. And so because of that, I can know I'm going to get help to carry the baby and it's paid for.
Yeah.
But so I find that most times people are not intentional about their CNA. And so they get overwhelmed with strategy. For example, there's time I had a program that was all on audio. So the entire program was on audio. In fact, you could take the program now and I don't even have to know that you're there. Every day you get like things to do, you get audios, everything was on audio. I did a surgery while delivering the program, and the program still went well because before the surgery, I already knew my constraints. At that time, I had 2 children under the age of 3. There's no way I'm going to do a live 30-day
Yeah.
program. There's no way I'm going to do it. But if you don't know your CNA, you will constantly find yourself being stranded. You will constantly find yourself being overwhelmed. And you realize you can never really do any real strategy work.
Yes, I totally understand this. I think I only did once a 5 day challenge, and after that I said I'm also really well organized before launches. So I had all my videos, all the posts, everything done. And the day I started, I realized that there was a problem with the videos and I had to re-record them every day of that week. So I said no, the first and the last time. And what I also noticed works well for me is the workshop. First of all, because people actually get to come and do the thing and ask questions. Then I was able, that workshop, to edit it into smaller videos and send it in emails. And emails, my best launches are usually emails, just through emails and posts. Probably because nowadays people don't really have time. When we were in COVID, and that's what people also don't think about. When we were in COVID, everyone was at home, so they had nothing else
Exactly.
to do. They could come. But now people have started to go outside. They've started networking live more than networking online. They want to go back to that. They are living their lives and they don't want to be tied to the video anymore. And I also look at people, when they say, I have this workshop coming up, this launch, whatever it is, and not many people have signed up or not many people have come live. That's okay. Just send out the recording. Almost nobody's coming nowadays unless there is something they can do. They work with you during the live. Otherwise, you're just a YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I've even decided to do in my trainings, because I'm running a live program, and so we don't have calls every week, we have calls twice a month. And then what I do with the training is, it doesn't even matter the video I do, I always do notes because most people just read the notes and they move on. And I found that every time I had to go to watch a training and it's a 2 hour video, I'm like, oh my God. And I'm assuming that people also feel the same way.
Yeah.
And like you said, most of us, we have children. The children have activities in school. So you're taking them to school, you're taking them for activities. Even if you're homeschooling, there's still activities. They want to join this club, they want to do this. You can't say mom is going to be on Zoom all day, so you all have to sit down and look at mommy on Zoom all day. It doesn't work that way.
Yes. And with the notes, especially with AI now, even if you're like the laziest person of them all and you don't want to read the notes, you can just put them in AI and say, give me this summary of the things I need to learn, I need to understand, and I can apply immediately. So there are many things you can do to work faster.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay, so do you feel that right now you have like a lifestyle-led business? Because this is what I'm going to ask next. What do you understand by a lifestyle-led business for your particular case? And how well do you think your business is optimized at the moment?
So to be honest, I feel like I have a lifestyle-led business, 70%, 60, 70%, not 100%. And the reason why is because I could do stuff around my life. For example, I don't take calls on Monday. I think in the last 6 months, I've only taken one call on Monday, and that was because I had a call on Tuesday, and I just like, you know what, I'm going to. So I take almost all my calls on Tuesday. Then I don't work Thursdays. I have a personal prayer retreat on Thursday, and that's just me. It's not like it's not a church thing, it's not a group thing. It's not like, oh, because people will feel bad if I don't go. It's like me. Thursdays from 9 to 3 p.m. I'm alone. Like no husband, no children, no husband, no one, just me and God, and just and you know what's the funniest thing? There was a day my husband came into the room when I was having my retreat. I think he wanted to pick something up. And he saw me sleeping. I was like, how are you sleeping during your prayer? I'm just sleeping at the feet of my father. I'm tired. You people have exhausted me. And I find that I look forward to Thursdays, and it doesn't matter what happens in the business. I'm not working Thursday morning. And I look forward to that 9 to 3 p.m. It's my most therapeutic part of the week because it's just me. Like, you know how it is. There's always somebody around who needs you, who's calling you, who wants you for something. But on Thursday, it's just me. Nobody's needing my time. And my entire family, both my immediate family and my extended family, knows that Thursday mornings, Lola is praying. My team members know Thursday morning. So no one is calling me. I'm not getting any emergency stuff. I think the only people who don't know are my clients. And my clients don't expect me to reply them as they reply. So they notes, it could take time. So that to me is the best thing. What I wish I could do is I wish, apart from the 2 weeks off I take in December, I wish I could take more time off. And I know,
Let's have a
yeah,
chat.
that I wish I could take more time off. And I know that the reason why I'm not taking more time off now is because I'm not really properly structured. This is the first year I'm properly structuring around me taking time off. Before
Yeah.
now, I've always had like babies, and now my children are older. So it feels like now I don't have to be tied to the house and everything. So now I can take time off. You know, a year
Yes.
ago, I couldn't have been able to take time off. So now I'm reorganizing the business in a way that I can take 1 week off here, I can take 1 week off there, stuff like that.
Yeah. I was talking to people about this because this is one of the things that I teach, and we never start like this. Like if you hear, for example, the fact that this week for me is my holiday week, my monthly holiday week. I only work 3 weeks every given month, and I have 2 weeks of holiday. Next month I have 1 week. Next month I have 2 weeks of holiday, and so on. And when people hear this, they kind of think, oh, wow, I should have started like this. No, it's never been like this for any of us. We've worked a lot in the beginning, a lot. And when I say a lot, I used to work Monday to Sunday from 8 to 5. Monday to Sunday for a whole year or even more than that. So there are times in the beginning when you have to do the work and you have to put in the work, and you get here with planning and with strategy. And just as you said, I've started prioritizing this year. This is what I want people to understand is like, yeah, in the beginning you have to put in the work, but you also need to think where you want to get and what kind of life you want to build and business you want to build at one point to help you. So it kind of took you a bit of time, but now you're here and working towards this. I also like the prioritizing yourself thing that you said, because I feel when we start our businesses, first we prioritize the clients, then we realize we're working too much and neglecting the family. And then we want to prioritize the family. And then we're like, I'm taking care of everyone, clients, family. Where am I in this story? And we always get to us last.
Mhm.
And I liked it that you said, yeah, now I don't do anything on Mondays. I don't do anything on Thursdays morning, because it's like, yeah, I'm getting there. I'm realizing that the most important person, like the asset for this is me. I have to do all the work
Yeah,
for the family, for the business. But most of the time you understand this quite late. Many people get burnt out. But yeah, prioritizing yourself should probably be taught more, or people should talk more about it.
yeah. I do think that there's a lot to it. The issue there is that most times people don't believe they deserve to prioritize
Yeah.
themselves. because it's more like a deserving thing. And then I also feel like there's this unspoken thing all around. I feel it's all around the world. Before I think it was like an African thing, but I think it's all around the world where women are expected to give more because, well, you're the nurturer, you're the carer, you're the, you're the one, you're the mother of the house. And yeah, to an extent, you could say yes. But I feel like in you having to always give more, no one is thinking about the fact that the women who used to give more, people would say stuff like, my grandmother used to do this and used to do this and used to do this. And I'm African, and I know that my grandma always had help. My grandma constantly had help. I know my mom always had help. I know that a lot of the women we look up to have help. And I'd say this just in case there's someone who's a Christian who's listening to this. The Proverbs 31 woman had help. The Bible says that she had maids who used to help her. So I feel like women have been taught nowadays that you have to be superwoman. You have to do it all yourself. And if you don't do it all yourself, it means you're not a good woman, or you're not a good mom, and you're not a boss lady. And it's not true. If you need to get help, by all means, get help. I feel like that should be your first hire if you're a mom.
Yeah.
Your first hire should have someone come into the house. It may be maybe $50 an hour, $100, depending on, how much they charge. You could get the cheapest person come into the house once a week to clean the house. That alone gives you so much freedom. And I know people will be like, oh, well, but the men do. I'm not saying men don't do it or men do it or not. I'm saying that because of the conditioning of society, most of the work eventually falls on women.
Yeah.
And you see men say things like, I help around the house. You don't help. This is your house too. But you hardly have women who say, I help around the house, because we just assume. And because there's been so many years of conditioning, changing it overnight doesn't work most times. So the best thing is, as you start your business, as you start making some money, your first hire should be someone who comes into your house and cleans, even if it's once a week.
Yeah. So, because you've been in business for some time, what would be 1 to 3 lessons you've learned from being a business owner that you could share with us?
So the first thing I'd say is that a skill is different from the business of a skill. So let me explain what it means. I'm a great copywriter does not mean I understand the business of copywriting. I'm a great web designer doesn't mean you see people who are fantastic and they don't know how to get clients. What you want to learn in business is the business of the business. So how do we get clients in this business? How do we charge in this business? How do we deliver in this business? How do we get people in this business? And one of the things that you want to realize is that your biggest role as the founder of the business is the business of the business. Eventually, every other thing is going to be given to other people to do. So eventually, you could hire a junior copywriter who's going to help you write. You could hire someone who's going to help you do your marketing. You could hire someone who's going to do your customer service and all those things. But the business of the business is something you have to master. So I'll use a simple example. Richard Branson, for example, he's not the one flying Virgin Airlines. He's not the one doing those things. But at the beginning of the business, he was the one who was going to look for investors. He was the one who was going to look for deals. He was the one sitting down to see things strategically. What are we going to do? He was the one who was signing partnerships. That's the business of his business. Your role is to always master the business of your business and not necessarily the skill alone. Because I find a lot of people, especially women, we constantly feel we're not enough. And because of that, we're constantly upskilling, getting a new certification, getting a new this, getting a new this. And we're not learning the business of the business. So get the number 1, 2, 3 people in your industry, not the number 1, 2, 3 people in your industry who are like the best selling people in your industry, and just look at how are they doing their business. Not how are they offering the service, how are they doing their business? How do they structure it? How do they set it up? And that just gives you ideas, again, tied with your CNA that we talked about, that allows you to be able to create your own map of how you do it. But the business of the business is more important than the skill. So that's my first advice. My second advice will always be, you are the number 1 expert on your own business. So even when you take outside experts, maybe you hire someone to help you look through your copy. I'm a messaging strategist. So many times people, ask me to help them go through their messaging. I would say I'm more of a business strategist, but most times people hire me for messaging. And even when I go through your messaging, one of the things I'll tell you to always test with the market, because you are the number 1 expert on your business. The number 2 expert is your market. So I could look at yourself and I could be like, oh, I think we should make this shorter. But maybe in your market, people actually buy long form posts, buy from long form things more. But we can't know if we just take my advice. We will only know if we test it with the market. So I'd say the second advice is you're the number one expert in your business. The number two expert is the market. And every time you want to test something, test it with the market. Oh, I want to know if this offer will sell it. Oh, I want to know if people would come for a 5 day, whatever, in on the Mount Himalayas or wherever. Sell it. Let people know. Test it with the market. The third thing I want to say is as much as people say customer is king, which is important, you want to realize that you are the queen of your business. And on the chessboard, the queen holds the most power. So sometimes customers may tell you what they think they want, but because they're not an expert, they don't see all round. So you listen to feedback from customers, but you don't change everything based on customer feedback alone. You tie it with your own expertise, with your own understanding of the market. I want to say just this thing that you should never ever leave the reins of your business for someone else to create the direction. I'm not saying never expand, never
Yeah.
grow, never hire a CEO, all these things. What I mean here is there's a reason you started that business. But many times when people hire a coach or a mentor, they forget their business and they abandon their business and they now start to model this coach or mentor's business. And it never really works as well as the original vision that they had in their mind. And if you had an idea for something, it's because that thing is needed. There's nothing like, oh, everywhere is so saturated. There are people who want to work with just you. They don't want to work with anyone else. It is you they want to work with. You bring a flavor to that niche that nobody else brings to that niche. If I would add a bonus one, the bonus one I would add will be more than anything, look for where you stand out and emphasize on where you stand out.
Yeah.
So everyone is so eager to be a copycat and a copy this and copying the best-selling thing and funnel hacking and all the thing. But what I would say is look for where you stand out and be exceptional at that thing. You can't compete with everyone on everything. The people will be better at certain things. But if you find one that you stand out in, be super exceptional where there's no other alternative.
Yeah.
So those are like my things.
Thank you for this. These are like really, really interesting. And I'm very, very sure that the people listening to the podcast have learned a lot today. A lot. I wanted to ask you at present, what are you offering? Do you have any courses? Do you have any launches coming up in December, January, February?
Okay, so right now, the offer I have on ground is something called Create Evidence, and I will just talk about it. It is a 6 month program, and it's funny enough, it's low ticket, which is everyone's like, why would you do a low ticket 6 month program? But the reason why is because I realized that there was a gap in the market, and there's so many people who need support, but they can't afford support. They can't
Yes.
afford world-class support because it's pricey. And then sometimes people pay for this world-class support and they don't get exactly what they want. So Create Evidence is different in the sense that though it's 6 months, it's you proving your offer and proving your message and actually creating evidence that the stuff that you do actually works. And so in it, we go through something called the APR formula. The first thing is we work through your authority. So what is that thing that makes you stand out? And you repeat that thing over and over again, at least 100 times. Then we go through your process. Process is what is your method to getting the results and who do people become? So I believe that every time we do something, we don't just get something, we also become something. So who do people become after they work with you? And what is the process? What's the map to get there? And the final part is results. And results is literally what results you already have, what results do people get from you. In fact, I go like really in depth on how you could take evidence, stories that people were working with you, things that people have said working with you and stuff like that, and literally to blow up your messaging. In between, there are other things, but we meet twice a month and it is fantastic. And I give feedback on everything. I have a team that works with me to make sure everyone's cared for and is catered for. And I open doors sporadically. But for people who are listening to this, I will give Valentina a secret link. If you want to join, you can easily just join at any time with that secret link.
Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And, regarding this, because you talked about authority, how do you personally show your expertise and authority in your marketing?
Okay, so for me, one thing about authority is demonstration. I believe a lot in demonstrating that you know what you want to say. Now, many times, what makes you an authority is that you can put a name to things that people are already thinking many times. So, for example, what makes you an authority in lifestyle businesses is because you could easily just say, number one, you have a lifestyle business, but when you talk about it, you could say like, "Hey, I just came back from my 2 week vacation," and like, "Oh, everyone has 2 week vacations, but this is like my fifth vacation this year." And then it's like, "Oh, wait, I can have a fifth vacation this year? Oh my God, is that possible?" And then you go into define like a traditional business, a business where most times you're tied to the business. A lifestyle business, the business is built around your life. The traditional business, I won't even say traditional, like you have a life run business or a business running your life. So your business is your boss. Your business tells you when to sleep, to eat, to do stuff. I have a lifestyle business where my life tells my business what to do. And so you even explaining those two terms allows someone to literally self-diagnose and see where they are. And just even having a post or a message like this allows people to say, you know what, Valentina is the expert when it comes to lifestyle businesses.
Yeah, I'm actually going to steal this.
Okay, you can go
Thank
ahead.
you.
You're welcome.
Um, Now, my last question, because I'm going to have another one. You talked about giving a free gift to our listeners. Tell me a bit more about it.
Yeah, so it's the CNA audit. The CNA audit is literally there's like a small mini course that you go through, and there's a GPT that just asks you question about your constraints, your nature, your agency. It will give you a plan, but the plan is meant to be based on my program and everything. But even just going through the audits, you don't have to be in the program. Even just going through the audits, you're going to literally be able to like self-diagnose and see exactly what's going on, and you'll be able to know whether your current strategy aligns with where you want to go.
Perfect. Thank you. And my last question is, where can people get in touch with you? Are you on a certain social media platform like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, via email, website?
Okay, so my Facebook profile is Lola Oyafemi. I'm Lola Oyafemi everywhere. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I typically talk about communication in the workplace, kind of like team dynamics. So on Facebook, I talk a lot about messaging and business. So if you're a business person, my Facebook is where you should just hang on. On LinkedIn, I'm talking about communication strategy. I'm in terms of like workplace dynamics. I really rant a lot about toxic workplaces on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a whole different, thing for me
Yeah.
than Facebook. But yeah, my name is Lola Oyafemi on all platforms.
Okay, I will actually have all the links in the description to the video so people can get directly in touch with you. So, Lola, now we've come to the end. Thank you so much for today. I've learned some great lessons, and I'm sure our listeners have also. And if anyone is trying to apply them, please let us know how things are going for you and send a massive thank you to Lola for all her teachings.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Have a fantastic time. And I'm really hoping that every single person who is listening, you apply this and you see great success in your business.
Yeah, thank you. What a conversation. Lola's frameworks, the CNA, the business of your business, being the queen, not just keeping customers as king. These are the things that actually move the needle when you stop chasing someone else's strategy and build around your real life. If you want to work out your business DNA and stop winging it with strategies that don't fit you, grab Lola's CNA Diagnostic. Links in the description. And if this episode gave you something useful, subscribe and tell me in the comments. I want to know what you're taking away from this. See you in the next episode.